What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson back in the Chat Sports studios after a week in Indianapolis covering the NFL Combine. So I want to share some of the Combine takeaways I had, along with some trade rumors surrounding 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk. Could the Broncos look to add a receiver to Bo Nix's development? Make sure to hit that like button down below if you have not already. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into it. Starting with this from Dianna Russini at The Athletic. As for the 49ers, they may not be done dealing. League sources tell me multiple teams have called about acquiring Brandon Aiyuk as San Francisco reworks their roster ahead of Brock Purdy's coming mega extension. Now, this is not the first time we've heard Aiyuk could be available for a trade. Michael Silver also said the 49ers would be open to trading him, being Aiyuk, but I'm skeptical that anyone would take on that contract coming off the ACL. I'm sensing a buyer's remorse right now from the 49ers. We're going to share a clip in a moment from John Lynch, the GM at San Francisco, and his response to being asked about Aiyuk's health and also whether or not they could possibly look to trade him. But first, right off the top here, the Broncos should have interest in Aiyuk. I don't think this is someone we should look at and go, move along, not happening, doesn't make any sense for Denver. No, it makes sense for Denver in a handful of ways. You've got something in Bo Nix, whereas last year when Aiyuk was, nearly a Pittsburgh Steeler, then nearly a Cleveland Brown, it didn't make sense for Denver to make a blockbuster swing for a wide receiver until they knew if they had something in their rookie quarterback. Now they know they've got something in Bo Nix, so it could make some level of sense to build around Nix by acquiring more weapons for him to work with, and to improve as a quarterback. The last couple of years for Aiyuk, you can see the numbers, especially from 2022 to 2023. That's what netted him a huge contract extension right before the start of the 2024 season. But unfortunately, that was a season cut short due to injury. He suffered a torn ACL and MCL on week 7, October 20th. My guess is, and by my guess I mean doctors' guesses, is it's probably going to be about 10 to 12 month recovery. So there's a chance that injury could cause Aiyuk to miss a little bit of the start of the 2025 season. But he did sign a 4-year, $120 million extension, and this is going to be year 1 of that extension. So it would be very unprecedented for a player to get traded before he even plays a single snap on that new contract. Although, did Russ play one season on his new deal? I think he played, I don't know if he played even one season on that new contract. Anywho, Aiyuk did get $76 million in total money guaranteed. 45 of that was paid out at his signing bonus. It paid out the signing bonus 2024 and $20 million for 2025. So any team acquiring Aiyuk actually would not be on the hook for a ton of unpaid cash. It financially could be very possible for a team like Denver to acquire him. And I don't want you guys to think, oh, they just took on a 4-year, $120 million contract. Not really. Only 76 is guaranteed, and about half of that was paid when he put pen to paper. So he's really taking on about a 4-year, $35-ish million contract because the 49ers have already paid out 76 or 45 of that 76 guaranteed. But this is what I was talking about a minute ago about John Lynch and his response to Chase Sr., our 49ers host here at Chat Sports, asking him about a health update on Aiyuk and the possibility of a trade. So we'll roll the clip now.
Yeah, that typically happens with really good players. I remember, I think 2 years ago, having similar conversations. You get calls and you always listen to calls. And, I think since Kyle and I've been here, we've been, certainly a top 5, I believe, number 2 cash spending team. In the last 5 years, I think or 4 years, going into the 4th year, I think we're the 4th highest cash spending team. So at some point you have to reset a little bit, or at least recalibrate. You can't just keep pressing the pedal. And I think there's some good that can come out of it. We need to get younger. I think we're the oldest team in football, trying to make a run at the deal last year. And I think it's good to constantly get younger.
Now, one thing that's going to make a trade tough is that torn ACL and MCL. You're just not going to find a lot of teams very eager to make a trade for someone coming off that severe of a knee injury, even if he put up some really good seasons before that. it's just going to eliminate a handful of teams. Now, I don't expect the Broncos to look at that and go, that's a deal breaker for us, but it's going to be something that makes the conversation very difficult because now you got to find a fair middle ground with the Niners where you look at the player and you look at his value, but you also got to factor in how much his value decreases with him coming off a major knee injury. Now, John Lynch also, that's the GM of the Niners, he told some of the other reporters from the Bay Area in Indianapolis that Aiyuk is doing well. I know coming up here in a couple of weeks, that's kind of a big marker coming up, and he shared with the NFL world that Aiyuk is making good progress, and I think that's a sign to other teams. Don't be turned off because of the injury. He's making good progress on his rehab, and I also think him, what was that, like a 45-second-ish response to my good friend Chase Sr.? That response could have been one word in 1 second. No. He didn't say no. He kind of went on for a little bit. And I think that's going to be interpreted as we're open for business. We're not dying to trade Aiyuk away, but we feel like we probably made a bad signing and two wrongs don't make a right. So if we can get something for Aiyuk, sure, we're not going to look great out of this. We could have traded him last offseason for way more, and we just gave him like $45 million guaranteed for just one season of work. Not even one season of work because he was already under contract for 2024. But the 49ers are a smart organization. If they feel like we should get out now and not make our losses even worse, then I wouldn't rule it past them to make a deal, as crazy as it might sound, to trade him away just after extending him. The Giants did that with Odell Beckham Jr., extended him, and then shipped him off to Cleveland. Now, here's an estimation of what a trade could look like. I'm thinking a third-round pick to the Niners. Not getting a first. I don't think they're getting a second. I think there has to be some wiggle room with the 49ers, I think, looking to reset a little bit because they do have to pay Brock Purdy soon. They drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round last year out of Florida. They love Juwan Jennings. I think they could be comfortable with Aiyuk not being on their roster and still being successful. So I think a third-rounder could get it done. The Niners are definitely going to look really dumb for this when they look back and go, wow, we said no to trade calls from the Steelers not even a year ago for a first. And now we settled for a third and we paid them a ton of money. But if they want to make a move, this could be the best offer they get. So let me know if you'd be interested in doing a trade like this. Would you part ways with the Broncos' third-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk? Give me your response. I'm going to give you my response in just a moment. I'll say this first. Sean and George Paton, they are not shy. They like wheeling and dealing. George Paton, before Sean even arrived, made tons of trades. So this is not a front office, a head coach GM duo that sits on their hands and lets the NFL world pass them by. No, they are active, especially Sean. If you go back to his track record in New Orleans, he was never afraid to pull the trigger on a trade. I personally am not expecting any kind of major wide receiver acquisition. I don't think they're going to make a big splash trade. Deebo Samuel got traded to the Commanders, and the Broncos were never really all that even interested in him, and that looks like someone who could fit the Joker role quite well. So if they're not even picking up the phone for Deebo, why are they going to pick up the phone for an injured and maybe somewhat problematic receiver like Aiyuk, a little bit of a diva, if you will, which every receiver is a bit of a diva, but I don't personally believe you're going to see a headline that says the Denver Broncos just traded for insert huge name wide receiver or made a huge name wide receiver signing. Open to be wrong, but that's my guess right now. So with that, I'll say no to Brandon Aiyuk, but I think it could be fun still in a hypothetical world. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the combine news, rumors, notes, takeaways I had after spending a week in Indianapolis. It was my first time attending the NFL Combine. It was an awesome experience outside of a rocky start, but we pulled it together by the end there, and I learned a ton. And I want to share a little bit of the news, notes, nuggets that I got from it. Starting with Harold Fannin. That's the Bowling Green tight end. You probably did not expect a Bowling Green State tight end to be the first guy we talk about after that, but I think this is a real possibility for the Broncos if they miss out on some of their preferred targets in round one. I said on a few videos ago last week that, not even a week ago, I'll give you guys the cheat sheet for what the Broncos draft is going to look like at pick number 20. I'm down to one of three guys: Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. Now, I put them in that specific order because that is the decrease of likelihood of being available at pick number 20. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Genty can't fall to 20, but it's not something I would bet on. Warren, I feel like, could go either way, but I could see him not getting past the Indianapolis Colts. And then Loveland, I could see falling to 20 or even past 20, but I also could see a team like the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh trading in front of the 20th selection to select his former tight end from Michigan, Loveland. So if all three of those guys are gone before pick 20, now you got to scramble the Jets a little bit. There's some really good interior defensive linemen in this class, like Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, that could help replace DJ Jones. So if they do decide to go with an interior defensive lineman or more of just a best player available approach, then Fannin could be an excellent pick in round number 2. If you're like, listen, we unfortunately did not get the joker we were hoping to get in round 1, but through no fault of our own, they were all taken before we were on the clock. That was out of our control. But we're not going to force a pick in round 1. We're just going to go play it safe, trust our board, take the highest guy remaining on it. And if it's at a position of need, awesome. If not, we like getting good football players, and they can circle back to another good tight end like Fannin in day 2 of the draft. But this is a plan C at tight end. I think plan A would be Tyler Warren. Plan B is Colston Loveland. And I think Loveland's got a very good chance of being there at 20, but if someone's worried the Broncos are going to take him, they could trade up to make sure they get their guy, and now you're trying to find a new tight end in day 2 of the draft. One other player I want to talk about is Tez Johnson. So not the best combine for Bo Nix's unofficial brother, but his brother. I don't know how else to describe it other than the Nix family took Tez Johnson in when Johnson was in high school. They never actually legally adopted him, but they view him as a sibling. And as I was saying, it was not a wonderful time for him in Indianapolis. Weighed in at 154 pounds, and he ran a 4.51 40-yard dash. I know there is a portion of the audience that just doesn't care about the measurements, and I hear you because I'm somewhat in that same camp of why don't you just put the tape on and look how he played at Oregon for 12, 13 games this year and make your decision based on that, not what he weighed in on a scale and what he ran in his underwear in February in Indianapolis. But there are just some teams that have markers. They have lines in the sand. I think it's like the 49ers. They will not draft an offensive tackle who has arms shorter than 33 inches. It is just a deal breaker for some teams. I don't know if Sean and George Payton have a line in the sand, but a $154 and a 4.51 40-yard dash is going to be tough for some teams to get past. It's the slowest 40-yard dash from any wide receiver under 170 pounds since 2003. Having said all that, the numbers don't lie. The numbers tell me he's a darn good football player. Look what he did with Bo in 2023. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. This past season with Dylan Gabriel, just shy of 900 yards and 10 touchdowns as well. So this is a prospect that if you just watch the tape, you would walk away feeling pretty confident and pretty comfortable with using a draft pick on him. Now I'm seeing teams that go, he is off our draft board completely. That seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I know the height and the weight are not good, but to me, I still put way too much, I would say too much, I put a lot of value into how did you look on the field? How did you run with the pads on? Because there are so many examples of guys who are fast without pads on and are track stars, but it does not translate to football because this is not track, this is football, and Tez Johnson to me passed the eye test for sure. Now, we did get a good interview clip from his media availability, and I want to share with you because this is a player that is dying to play for the Broncos.
How much would you love to play with them if the opportunity comes up that you end up in Denver?
I'm pretty sure everybody here knows what it feel like if I get my name called with the Broncos. But I'm willing to play for any team in the league. Regardless of the situation, they're going to have the best slot receiver in the NFL coming to their team.
Have you met with them?
Yeah.
Formally?
Yes.
So what was it like seeing Sean Payton in that context? Because he was at Pro Day last year, obviously, so he's already seen you. He talked about you the other day. Says you got a chip on your shoulder. So
I definitely have a chip on my shoulder. Just seeing the Broncos, it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt normal to me. It just felt like I was already there for some reason. I don't know why, but it was definitely a good meeting. Definitely enjoyed it, killed it 100%, I think. Well, I know. So, yeah, it was very, I enjoyed it 100%.
Now, for me personally, the speed is not that big of a concern. There are lots of examples of players who didn't have great 40-yard dashes and still had very good careers. I don't think there's a good correlation between wide receiver 40-yard dash and success in the NFL. But I do believe at a 154-pound frame, it is very fair to be concerned about how well he can sustain his body and stay healthy in the NFL, taking hits from NFL DBs. So the speed, that's now it's actually turning me off. It's the 154-pound frame. I don't know if you can survive a long career that light in the NFL. To me, that just seems like a number too low to move past. But listen, you're going to see a lot of NFL winners and losers, type of content. Even here at Chat Sports, I think we have had a couple of videos go out that are in that neck of the woods. I'm here to remind you, the NFL Combine is not a direct correlation to success at the next level. Cooper DeJean was a loser. I think the Eagles are laughing right now. How about this guy? Anyone know who this is? This is Adetomiwa Adebawore. He was supposed to be a first-round pick out of Northwestern because he was an athletic freak. He went in the 4th round. He's not done much in Indianapolis, but he was a winner. This next point's funny. You go back a little further. I don't think they're wrong for saying Kenny Pickett was a loser from the Combine, but they're just both losers. So if you thought back then, oh, maybe Ritter could be something, yeah, I think he should probably keep those DoorDash commercials going. One more, too. Kyren Williams, a loser. I would say he's had a pretty good career so far with the Rams. Actually, one more. This is the last one, I promise. Kyle Hamilton, loser. Lewis Cine, a winner. One of them is going to become the highest paid safety in football in a year or so. The other one, I don't believe will be on the team that drafted him anymore in a year or so. Listen, there are lots of examples of players looking good at the Combine and having a very good start to their career and just career in general. But no, I don't believe we should look at the Combine testing as this apples-to-apples comparison. For me, after learning a lot at the Combine this past week, 2 things that I want to put more emphasis on that I didn't in years past from the Combine. 1, medicals. That is like what the Combine started off as an opportunity for teams to kind of share their medical notes on a player and not have 32 different doctors meet with every single player and just waste a whole amount of time. Nope. Now everyone gets the same information at once. 2, getting to know these players in person. Before then, all these players were just stats and numbers and tape and highlights. Never actually get to know the guy, off the field and what he's like and how he carries himself and the work he puts into his craft and whatnot. Those are 2 things that we need to place a greater emphasis on, and those things are not reflected when it comes to Combine winners and losers. Before we sign off, I was browsing on Fanatics, and I came across this Broncos winter hat that is, I kid you not, 70% off. I know winter is about to end, but do future you a favor right now, because if you think you might want to get a new Broncos hat in October, November, December next year, you're going to thank old you when you paid $10 for this hat instead of nearly $35, $40, which you will end up paying next fall. So go to chatsports.com/DEN hat. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Little geography test to wrap up today's video. After a week in the capital of Indiana, name a random U.S. capital city. You got 50 to pick from. I know all 50. It's one of my favorite little flexes. It's not. I don't get to use it very often. I got to use it in trivia the other day though. Jefferson City for the win. I'm not gonna say that. So, name a random U.S. capital city. I've got mine. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Charleston, West Virginia. What'd you say? Harrisburg, PA is a good one. Yeah, Charleston, not South Carolina. Charleston, West Virginia. I doubt anyone thought I would say Charleston. Let me know if I got you in the comments.